Hello brothers and sisters, welcome to another episode here on this channel. But before we go into what we have for today, I would love to take this opportunity to welcome all our new members. You are welcome, and we wish and pray that you learn a lot about your spiritual life and how to build a personal relationship with God yourself. In today's episode, we go deep with our brother into his life as an associate pastor to a prophet. In this episode, he talks about his time with the prophet and the kind of rituals that they were doing in the church, which he wants to expose. Why does he want to talk now? And at what cost were these rituals done? If you are new here, this is Dangerous African Confessions HD, where we bring to you confession stories to help you make your own informed decisions about your walk with God and life in general. Without taking much of your time, let us go and listen to the story. Please subscribe if you haven't done so, and also do like and share this video, so others out there can also benefit from this conversation, and hit the notification bell as well, so you will be notified anytime we upload videos.
I believe, my brother, this conversation will help someone out there to understand that not all the people that go about claiming to lead people to God truly do have their interest at heart. Why do I say this bold statement? I can boldly say it because I have been on that road before. And I have witnessed things that I was shocked and I didn't believe were possible in the kingdom of the Most High. I have supported and done things that I today regret. Not being able to change the things I have helped done, that is why I decided to share with you what I know. I know even now that I am going to talk about things that I witnessed, people will still doubt what I will say today. But I believe with time, when they see some of the things I will talk about, they themselves will realize this message. You see, prior to meeting this man I am going to talk about, people in my place always spoke of miracles. They said if you saw the prophet Eli come, you would witness the impossible. You would see the blind see, the sick rise from their beds. And as life will have it, I didn't have much and I was struggling to make life better for myself. I was a poor guy, the son of a humble farmer. I have worked the fields before I moved from our village to the city, to try and make things better for myself and my family. I can say that I wanted power, I wanted wealth. My family lived in the shadows of those with money, with influence. But I didn't have what they had. Then, one day, I heard of Prophet Eli. He is the man I will be talking about in our conversation. You see, when I heard of him, I was curious, desperate. I needed to see this man for myself. So, I traveled for miles to see him. Honestly, when I first saw him, standing in front of that huge crowd, I felt something in the air, something that made my heart race. There was power in his presence. The people around him, they looked at him like he was a god. And I, standing in the back, just watched, hoping that maybe he would notice me, a guy from nowhere. And the truth is that day, he did. He looked straight at me. And in that moment, I knew my life was about to change. He spoke to me about how God was going to use me mightily, and the reason why I'm going through whatever I was going through was in preparing me for the greater heights He has for me. To be honest, even though I did not get money or anything, I felt satisfied, knowing that my Maker has a special assignment for me. That is how I started going to his church each and every time there is service. So, in about some time of continuing going to his church, he told me to become one of his young pastors he was training, so that he can train me in the works of the Lord. And he asked me to move into the church place if I so wanted to really understand how to work in the church. So my brother, that started my journey and me serving in his church, which later I became one of the closest young pastors in his church. I began following him, doing whatever I could to stay close. At first, I was just in awe of the things he could do. The way he prayed, the way people would fall to their knees, healed. I couldn't understand it. There were whispers in the crowd, this man is chosen. This man is sent from above. And I believed them. I saw it with my own eyes. Someone from a poor background who has heard that God wants to use me. I started helping him more, bringing food, cleaning his clothes. And every day, I would hear stories of how he healed the sick, cast out demons. I was amazed. I thought, maybe one day, I would be like him. And then, He looked at me again, one evening, and told me that I have great potential and I am also faithful. Because of that, he told me that he would teach me the ways of God. He told me that he was going to teach me how to see the truth that others cannot. That evening, my brother, I felt chosen. I was ready to serve him. But I didn't know that serving him would cost me everything. So that is how I became so close to him. I served him with everything within me. One night, Prophet Eliakim called me into his private chambers. There was a different energy in the room that night. He asked me if I wanted to see real power. He asked again if I wanted to live without limits. I told him that I wanted to help and work like he does in the church. I want to make miracles happen. He smiled. He told me that, to be able to do these things, I must be willing to make sacrifices. Power comes with a price. And I will show you that price. I was confused. And so, when he realized how confused I was, he told me to never mind. And at the right time, I would get the full understanding of what he meant. You see, he never brought it up again. We worked and I was serving him, till one day, he had finished ministering to the people and in his office, he called me. And he asked me to tell him what I really wanted to know or do. I did tell him everything, and he then told me again that he still insists that there are certain sacrifices that I must be willing and open to do before I can start to operate in my fullness as I have been gifted. I asked what kind of sacrifices he was talking about. That day, he told me that there are rituals. Rituals that will give me power. But they are not what I think. And again, I will need to perform them if I want to grow strong. I didn't understand it fully. But when he spoke of power, something inside me felt compelled to do it. And so, I accepted to learn how or go through how it is done. That was when he introduced me to the washing of feet of the church members. You see, my brother, the whole thing that I must say is that these people, they capitalize on your trust first, your naivety, and how eager you are to get you into doing these dark rituals which will later turn to harm you. I was naive, eager to believe that I could do something great. When Prophet Eliakim called me to work for him, I thought it was a blessing. I had been following him for some time, watching the miracles he performed. Every sermon he preached seemed to carry weight, his words always heavy with authority. People flocked from miles away to see him, to hear him speak. The very air felt charged around him. There was a strange, magnetic force about him. It wasn't long and I was his right hand, learning from the master. But little did I know, this was just the beginning. The real work, the real power, would come later. One day, just before the full moon, Prophet Eliakim called me into his chamber after the evening service again. He told me it was time for me to understand the full extent of the power he had. He told me it was time for me to truly serve. He told me that, since I have been of immense benefit when it comes to serving him, he said it was time for me to witness and partake in the true secret of our power. This is not just faith. This is something deeper. I didn't fully understand then, but I was eager. He said that I would take part in a sacred ritual. A ritual that will bind me to him and to the power he wields. But first, I must wash the feet of the church followers. It is through this act that the blessings will flow. He said it will help transfer their light and strength to me. Though the weight of his words settled heavy in my chest. He had spoken of something mysterious, something that seemed strange, even dangerous, but it felt right. I wanted to belong to something greater, to feel that power surged through me the way it did through him. I remember later that evening, the prophet gathered his closest followers. The small, dimly lit room smelled of incense, thick and overpowering. The followers sat in a circle, eagerly waiting. I could see their faces, shining with devotion. Their eyes were full of trust. They had come to receive blessings, to be healed, to be touched by greatness. I stood beside the prophet, watching as he began to speak. His voice was low but commanding, his words drifting over the crowd like a prayer. Tonight, we perform the sacred ritual. The washing of feet is not just an act of humility. It is a transfer of glory. We take what is weak, what is broken, and we transform it. Through this act, you will receive your blessings, and I will receive more strength. I felt a knot twist in my stomach, but I said nothing. I looked at the first person, the woman sitting in front of me. She was an older woman, maybe in her late 40s, with tired eyes. Her hands were worn from years of hard work. She had been one of the first to come to the prophet's ministry. She believed in him completely. She looked up at me, and a soft smile crossed her face. "It's an honor," she whispered. I nodded, though my hands trembled. I knelt down before her. The water was warm, almost soothing. I placed her feet in the bowl, and as my hands touched her skin, I felt something strange. At first, I thought it was just my nerves. But then, as I began to wash her feet, I felt it more clearly, a weight lifting from her, a kind of energy passing into me. Her feet were rough, calloused from years of labor, but there was something almost sacred about this moment. As I washed her feet, I felt a power through me, almost like a shock. It was a strange sensation, an unfamiliar heat that seemed to move from her body into mine. I looked up at the prophet, who was watching me closely. His eyes were filled with approval. It was later when we were deep into these rituals that he told me that it is under the feet where the glory of a person lies. The feet are the foundation of all things. When you wash them, you take what is theirs, their strength, their vitality. It becomes yours. It wasn't just any warm water. That I think I must explain better for understanding. You see, before any pastor will come and tell you that they are washing your feet in water, they will have prepared some oils and whatever substance they use in their church and mix them with the water. And it is those things they know exactly what they have done and know what they have invoked into those oils and items, which eventually facilitate the transfer more easily. When such rituals go on, each foot that I washed, the heat in my hands grew stronger, and with it, I felt an unsettling sense of power. I could feel the blessings of the people slipping from their bodies into mine. With every foot, I felt my own strength grow, my own senses sharpening. Anytime I did these things, my heart would be crying. But because I wanted power, and I thought it was the way to go and be able to manifest what I have been told, I did it anyways. I continued working with him, continuing the ritual, not fully understanding what I was becoming a part of. But one thing was clear, as the feet of the followers became cleaner, their lives became duller. They left with less than they came with. And I, standing at the center of it all, felt the surge of power coursing through me, like I had tapped into something dark and terrible. This was the first ritual. The first time I took part in something that, deep down, I knew I shouldn't have. But by the time I realized the full cost of what I had done, it was too late. My brother, let me say this before I even forget it. Over time, the foot washing ritual became a regular part of our church programs, especially at every 31st night of December. At first, I didn't question it. In fact, I grew accustomed to it. The prophet had taught me well, power requires sacrifice. You must always take, in order to give. And so, every time, we would gather the congregation for what seemed like a grand event, a time for blessings and renewal. They came, their faces shining with hope, eager to receive the prophet's healing touch, his prayers. But there was something I started to notice. After each event, each ritual, the members of the church began to change. It wasn't immediate, but gradually, I saw it. The once vibrant faces of the congregation grew dull. They looked tired, drained. They left the church looking different from the way they came in. People who had once been full of energy, healthy, and lively now seemed worn out. Some would lose their jobs, others would fall ill, and there were those whose marriages began to fall apart. Their lives, once full of hope and joy, began to fall apart in ways I couldn't fully explain. It wasn't just one or two people, it was happening to many. And every time I washed their feet, I felt something dark inside me, as if I was pulling something from them. It wasn't just their energy, their vitality, it was their very glory, their blessings. They didn't know, of course. No one knew. They came to the church believing they were receiving a blessing, a divine touch. But what I was really doing was taking their strength. And the prophet knew it. He encouraged it. He taught me that this was how we grew, how we could get stronger. Every time I washed someone's feet, I took from them and, in return, gave them nothing but false hope. You see, at first, I didn't make the connection. People left the church happy, but as the days passed, I started to notice the changes. I remember this very person. An older man in the congregation. He had been with us for long, a devoted servant of the Lord, always helping with the community. But after I washed his feet during one of our major gatherings, he began to change. His farm, once thriving, started to fail. This man one day after service came to me, desperate, pleading for help. He asked me why God has forsaken him. He complained bitterly to me about the problems he was going through. I didn't know how to respond at first. I wanted to deny it, to tell him it wasn't my fault, but deep down, I knew the truth. I had taken something from him when I washed his feet. But I couldn't tell him that. I had to act quickly. I went to the prophet for guidance. That was when he told me that I should heal him. I have to perform a miracle. He asked me to bring him back to life, to restore his blessings. Then he added that I should have in my mind that every healing is not a true restoration. It's only a temporary fix. Every time you heal someone, you take something more from them, and we grow stronger. The cycle continues. Honestly, I didn't want to cause more trouble for the man. But I had no choice than to go ahead and have some form of healing prayer for his life. The only thing I was doing was that I had taken your grace and I was only pushing something darker into your life, which will at the beginning give you what you are expecting. But later it will come back crushing. That is why, when you feel this pastor is not from God and still people are under his feet, they feel attached to him in a way that they themselves do not understand what they are doing. So, I laid my hands on him, and I healed him. But it wasn't the same. His health was restored, yes, but he wasn't the same man he had been before. There was something missing, a light that used to shine in his eyes had dimmed. I could see it, but he couldn't. It wasn't just him. The same thing happened to others too. The miracles were real in the moment, yes. But the aftermath was always the same. They became weaker, poorer, sicker. You see, I started to wonder, how many more would I have to hurt before I could stop this cycle? But the prophet had made it clear, there was no turning back. Once you start taking, there's no way to stop. I remember, the prophet would say, don't worry about them. You will heal them, but the sickness is not permanent. Every healing draws more power to you, more glory for me. But the more I healed, the more I saw the consequences. At that moment, I realized how deep the manipulation went. I wasn't just performing a ritual. I was part of a cycle that destroyed the lives of these people, destroying their futures, their blessings, all for the sake of power. You see, the more I continued with these rituals in the church, the more I understood how twisted the whole system was. Prophet Eliakum's power wasn't from God. It was a dark, parasitic power. Each time I washed someone's feet, I stole something precious from them. And each time I healed someone, I could feel the drain on their soul, their energy. But I was too far in. The prophet's grip on me was strong. I didn't know how to get out. He told me that if I left, I would lose everything, my power, my position, and even my life. And without it, who would I be? The guilt began to weigh on me. I saw the damage I had done, and every healing, every prayer I performed, felt like a lie. But it was too late to turn back. I was lost in the web we had woven, with no way out. So, my brother, late one night, I sat alone in my room. I couldn't sleep. The guilt was consuming me. The faces of the people I had heard danced behind my closed eyes. I saw their pain, their suffering, all because of what I had done. I had sacrificed them. I had sacrificed everything I had ever believed in for the sake of power. And for what? To be part of a system that broke people. To take their light and leave them with nothing but darkness. No. I couldn't do it anymore. I have had enough of it. And I was even ready to end it all if it comes to me dying. I had to break free. I had to stop hurting these people. I couldn't be a part of this deception any longer. That night, I packed my things. I didn't tell anyone. As I walked out into the night, I felt a weight lift from my chest. I was leaving behind a life of darkness. But there was also fear of what the prophet would do when he realized I was gone. I didn't know where I would go or what I would do. But I knew I couldn't stay. I couldn't keep stealing from others. I left the church and never looked back. Even though I did fear something terrible might happen to me. But it's been years now. I think about 5 years or 6 that I left his place. And I am still alive. Please, I would like people in the Christian faith to understand that not every pastor that performs miracle or can prophesy or knows how to preach good is from the Lord God our Maker. Some are just doing their own things that you have no idea about. I hope in this moment going forward, when you come in contact with any pastor, you will let the Holy Spirit in you guide and direct your path. Thank you for your time.
Don't forget to please subscribe, share and like our videos. Kindly hit the notification bell so you will be the first to get notification to our videos when we upload. To my brothers and sisters here, I want to tell you that nobody is interested in causing problems in the body of Christ. In fact, we cannot even do that. Where then will we stand? But it is for our own good that we do our best to come your way with these conversations. You must understand that power, fame, wealth, none of these are worth your soul. These things, like our brother had said, comes with the belief that the more you give, the more you would receive. You see, when someone promises you power in exchange for your service, whether that service is in the form of rituals, sacrifices, or blind faith, question it. Always ask yourself, what is the price? Is it your health? Your peace of mind? Your integrity? Your very soul? A lot of Christians are made to believe that miracles and blessings could be bought with sacrifice, offering, and seed, but it is wrong. I must tell you that true power comes from truth. It comes from kindness. It comes from serving others without expecting anything in return. If someone asks you to give in ways that make you uncomfortable, or to harm others for the sake of power, do not follow them. That path is not from God. That path will lead you to destruction. I know it's easy to get lost in the promises of greatness, in the idea that wealth and influence can solve all your problems. But you should know that, the more you take from others to build yourself up, the more you will lose. Your peace. Your joy. Your true purpose. And ultimately, your soul. So, my brothers and sisters, here's my advice to you. Number 1, trust your instincts. 2, seek truth, and not glory. Again, know your worth. And you should also know that healing comes from love, not control. And last on the list I have, you should know that it's never too late to walk away. If you find yourself in a situation where you are being manipulated, controlled, or used for someone else's gain, remember that you always have a choice. You can leave. You can find a way to rebuild your life and reclaim your peace. Don't fall for flashy promises or emotional manipulation. Remember, God's miracles are real, but they come with truth, love, and peace. Don't let anyone lead you astray for their own gain. Stay grounded, stay prayerful, and stay vigilant. I hope this message encourages you to be discerning in your journey in life. Thank you for watching, and remember, life is too short to make choices you regret forever. We shall meet again in the next video.